Hello, I'm Brad Fain, and welcome to another edition of Living a Good Life. I'm really excited today. I have two great guests. I have Sheriff Rhodes and Chief Deputy Newnum with me today, and we're going to be talking about how our sheriffs keep us safe in our community, how that all fits into living a good life, and getting to just know a little bit more about the job that people might not know. And so why don't we start with you, Sheriff? Why don't you just give us a little bit background about how you got here in Yavapai County, being a sheriff, was law enforcement and public safety always something you wanted to do when you were growing up and you just pursued that from day one? And how did we get to where you're now Sheriff Rhodes of Yavapai County?
You bet, Brad. First, thanks for having us.
My pleasure.
This is great. We really appreciate it. My family moved here. They were immigrants from Germany back in about 1890. They came to Prescott, and they owned a house over on Mount Vernon in Prescott all the way up into the 1930s, and ended up over in Jerome working in the mine.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they bought a ranch down by Oak Creek in Cornville, Sedona. Mm-hmm. And half of the family went down to Bisbee to work in the mine because the same company owned Jerome and Bisbee. So I was actually born in Bisbee, but moved back to Cornville to live on the ranch when I was about 5-6 years old. So I grew up in the Verde Valley. Went to Mingus and really got to know the sheriff's deputies that were over there. And my grandfather was a sheriff's deputy in Cochise County when I was very, very little. And I just really had a deep love and appreciation, respect for the office of the sheriff. And so from a time I was very young, I was very interested in doing this job, being a sheriff's deputy. And so when I was 20, when I was 18, I moved to Prescott, went to Yavapai College, tested to become a deputy when I was 20, got hired, and I've been here ever since. The crowning achievement of my life when I was 16 years old would have been to be a sheriff's deputy. So to be the sheriff today is one of the things I never would have imagined possible. But it is actually possible for young men and women who get into this business and come up through the organization to end up in a position like mine. Jeff is my chief deputy, which is the number 2 position at the agency. And that's a position that I held when Sheriff Masher was the sheriff.
That's right. Well, thank you for that. My grandfather was born in Cornville.
Really?
So, yeah. So
where at?
I don't know, just out on the ranch somewhere, just in Cornville.
Yeah.
Our family started on that side of the mountain. And my great-great-grandfather was a 49er. So he would go back and forth looking for gold and silver. And back in those days, it takes months and months to travel. And so they made their way and they stopped at Fort Verde. And then he just started raising hoe grass for the fort to feed the horses and selling it to the horses and starting a business. And so that's where our family started. And then my great-grandfather was a rancher over there and had a small ranch on the Verde side, and eventually made his way to this side of the mountain and started ranching on this side. And that's kind of how we got over here. But we started on that side. A lot of people don't know that we...
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just slightly ahead of you guys, 1874. But I didn't know the German immigrant, 1890s. What a great story.
They were gold brokers, and they originally went to Telluride, Colorado, and it was too crowded. And so they came to Prescott, and they went out to Palace Station and started, working out there. And I still have a slab of the gold inlaid in the rose quartz, which came from Telluride, which has been passed down.
Wow.
And then the white quartz, which is here in Prescott, I have a slab of that with the gold inlaid in that. And that came from the hills in Prescott.
What a great story.
Wow.
Well, that's really neat. Thanks for
thank
sharing
you.
that.
Yeah.
Chief Deputy Newnum, how'd you get here? I mean, what?
Well, my story is a little different. I come from an aviation family, actually, and I moved all over the country because my dad worked for Continental Airlines. And so lived in 7 different states, moved 16 times before I was even 17 years old. And so I actually after high school, went into the military, as did my older brother, to pay for college. And so he went into the Navy. I had to go into the Army, you know.
Couldn't do the same?
Yeah. So he came here after he got out of the Navy to go to Embry-Riddle. And because we were such an aviation family, I followed suit when I got out of the Army, and I came here to go to Embry-Riddle to become an aeronautical engineer and learned how to fly, and he learned how to fly. And what's the old saying, you know, if you ever want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Well, we both got out of that line, and we both became police officers. He is a chief deputy for his agency at Winston-Salem PD, and I stayed here. I met my wife in college here at church and never left. And so I, when I was working my way through school, I started off with the probation department here in Yavapai County as a surveillance officer, and loved that job, and really started to find a passion of service. And it really kind of fell in line with what I was doing in the Army. Even though I was a scout in the infantry, I really had this passion to serve the community. And so I just fell in love with the county, this area, and transitioned after about 2.5 years with the probation department over to the sheriff's office. Started with the sheriff's office in early 96, and have been here ever since. But started with the county in 94. It'll be 30 years next month for me as well.
Wow.
With Yavapai County. And so absolutely love this community and love the area. And, you know, pretty soon somebody will have to pry these jobs away from us, and because we've just become so ingrained in the agency and who we serve and why we serve, and the public safety that really, I think, has a lot to do with the quality of life that all of us came here to enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a great story. Embry-Riddle grad.
Yeah, well, yeah, I didn't actually graduate from Embry-Riddle. My brother did, but I got to the point where I was so enveloped in law enforcement.
You were transitioning
I
over.
transitioned. Have some time in 3 different colleges. I didn't stay with Riddle, but never wanted to leave this area because, you know, just falling in love, watching it grow.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, you know, that's your story is one that we try to, like, this is the story we want to fulfill. Is you're going to school, you're creating your dreams of what you want to do, and how do we keep you here? How do we give you the jobs and the opportunity to stay here that we struggle with today?
Right.
We were talking about it before we went online, just the cost of living and the salaries and getting everything to balance, and how do we create that environment so that our youth can stay here?
That's right.
So I'm glad you were able to make it, and we got to keep working to create more opportunity for the next generation.
Yeah, I, honestly, that's why we stayed. Was we have 4 kids, and I had some job offers from some other communities and other cities around Arizona, and we never wanted to take our kids out of the Prescott Unified School District.
Mm-hmm.
We just there was nothing else out there that we felt was better.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm a Prescott High grad myself, so so we got a little bit about it sounds like both of you had a long calling for law enforcement or public safety and some branch of that, and made your way to being sheriff. Tell us, you know, as a role of sheriff, what's the biggest challenge that you guys face protecting Yavapai County as a department and an agency?
Well, I'll say something right off the bat, and I'll give Jeff an opportunity to talk, but it's the response times. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to have deputies in some of the rural parts of the area close to where an emergency is going to crop up. And then a lot of times those deputies are going to these calls by themselves, or they're waiting for backup from another agency, maybe the Arizona Department of Public Safety, maybe like Coconino County Sheriff's Office, maybe Maricopa County Sheriff's Office or whatnot. That's one of the most significant challenges, is keeping people out in these rural areas of the county for emergency response.
Hey, well, before we move on to your answer, how big is the area you serve? I don't think people realize. I mean, you're the county sheriff. You're not a community like Prescott or Prescott Valley.
Yes, we have. It's a little over 8,000 square miles. which is bigger than many eastern states. And it goes all the way, mile marker 96 on I-40, which is halfway to Kingman from Seligman. And all that, that area north of the I-40 there, south of that, a lot of people live out in that area. All the way over to Ash Fork, kind of comes down Paulden, Chino Valley, cuts across all of the Verde Valley, about 2/3 or 3/4 of Sedona, down the I-17 corridor, including Black Canyon City, north quarter of Lake Pleasant or so going that way, north quarter of Wickenburg, Yarnell, Congress, Baghdad, Kirkland, Skull Valley, and whatnot. And of course, in the center of all that is Prescott Valley. Yeah. Those are your two biggest population centers, those two cities right there.
Wow, it's a big county.
It's a big county.
A lot of area to cover.
It's a lot of area to cover, a lot of driving.
Yeah.
A lot of calls for service out in these areas, and a lot of, calls that you just don't see working in an urban, a city. You're working for a city police department. We do all the search and rescue in the county. Everybody that gets stuck on the rocks in Sedona, the sheriff's office, our deputies and volunteers go and get them off. Swiftwater rescue. Landowner disputes between private property and public property, these kind of things. So it's of course we run the jail. Of course we do all kinds of law enforcement, drug enforcement, all these things. It's a very complicated, very complex operation.
Wow. How about for you? What do you think is one of your biggest challenges you guys face?
Well, I think I'm gonna steal something I heard from Sheriff Rhodes one time, because I think it's very true that we enjoy a certain quality of life here in Yavapai County. And the quality of life that we enjoy has a lot to do, maybe even I would submit primarily the quality of life hinges on public safety. And during this season that we've been in, and we're actually turning a corner, I think some of the other agencies in Yavapai County are as well, but to find good quality staff that can afford to live in Yavapai County, so we can keep up with the growth in Yavapai County. Sheriff Rhodes spoke about the response times. Our response times with the growth gets hindered when we're not able to fill every vacancy that we have. And I tell our new employees that come in our agency, it's all about that public safety aspect. Whether you're a deputy sheriff on patrol, a detention officer in the jail, kind of our unsung heroes that work extremely hard by taking care of a population that comes into the jail, whether it's just a small infraction like failing to pay a fine on a driving on a suspended, or first-degree murder. We had a murder last week, and we had an attempted murder last week, and I don't think that people realize that the jail that we have in Camp Verde and the new jail in Prescott are absolutely essential to maintaining the quality of life that we have. And so every job description that I have that's vacant, whether it be a deputy sheriff, a detention officer, a cook, a records tech, a release coordinator, no matter what it might be, those are extremely important to our mission. And so to be competitive around here, to attract people to come and live here and work here, to contribute to that is probably one of the biggest challenges that we have, because that affects everybody, whether it's the lack of backup because of a response time on patrol, or maybe we're short on resources in the jail, that make it a little bit more difficult and stretches us thin. So we have some amazing men and women that have come into our agency, men and women that are going to take up that torch and take the legacy forward for this agency for years and decades to come. And so we're so thankful for that. But I would say that has been one of the biggest challenges. And like we experience every crime that you could imagine that happens in Phoenix or a major city happens here as well, just on a different scale. Yeah. And Sheriff Rhodes and the other sheriffs around the state have been really busy legislating for new laws and stiffer penalties on things like fentanyl and issues that we see with the border crisis. But here in Yavapai County, we're experiencing the same thing, whether it be issues with drugs, whether it be issues with the border, with organized crime, that we start to see. So we need those resources, and we need men and women to come here and want to live here and to have a good quality life for their family. And that's been key. And so that's probably been one of the biggest challenges that we've seen. Certainly maybe not the biggest, but certainly one that we've had to work on.
So you touched on two topics I was going to bring up, so I'll bring it up maybe in a little different context, but that's the fentanyl, the drugs, and the immigration. We go home at night, we see the news, and it just feels it's over there. It's not here. It's not in Yavapai County. It's the southern border of Arizona. Right. But I think that's one of those, how do we keep the public educated that it's here as well? And maybe I don't notice it because of the job you're doing and not because it's not here. Because I wanted to touch on that. So how do you guys manage to, how big of an impact is immigration or fentanyl up here in our communities?
Well, it's not as big as it is in other areas for a couple of reasons. You have tremendous support for public safety up here. In every part of the country where you have seen public safety come under fire, particularly law enforcement, and you've seen them begin to not invest or even defund, or just the political rhetoric that really diminishes morale or decreases the appetite to even get involved in this as a career, those areas of the country are reeling right now. And they are they're wishing, there's so much buyer's remorse and regret for their comments and their actions, and they're trying to reel it all back in. And they're learning a lesson that is a very hard lesson to learn, and that's this. When you give an inch in public safety, whether it's fentanyl trade, whether it's immigration, for whatever it is, it turns into a mile instantly, and you can't get it back. And unfortunately, the tactics and the things that you have to do to get it back, many people in the public or even leaders just don't have the stomach for it because it seems so drastic. So the key is this. You continue to build your public safety infrastructure. You continue to invest. You continue to hire good people. You continue to pay them fair and equitable wages. You continue to create mission and vision. You continue to communicate to the public that we are going to enforce the laws of the state and the country. This is a safe place to be. We are going to guarantee it. And the people that do break the laws, particularly victim crimes, drug dealers, you pursue them, put them in jail, and prosecute them to the fullest extent to the law. And you put that out in the media, you put that out in the public to send a message to everybody else. Take that somewhere else. We don't control the rest of the world, but we do control public safety here in Yavapai County. We're not going to give an inch.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we are a country that was founded on laws, and we're a country of laws. And you can't take away one of the arms or multiple arms that enforce those laws. So it never made sense when you get the defunding, and it's a tough job. I don't know the least bit of how difficult it is, but you guys are out there in front of it every day. And, there's dangerous people that you have to confront, and that's serious. And your adrenaline gets going, but you got to take care of yourself and be safe so you can go back to the job and go back to your family at the end of the day.
Well, and as Jeff said, we've got tremendous men and women working here. They're not the ones that get to come in and visit with you and sit in front of the green screen and whatnot, and perhaps they should be. They're the ones that are out there doing the work, working, all night, working weekends, making sure that we're safe. And so we always try to remind people whenever we're doing something like this, that those are the people that need the support and the thank you. Jeff and I did that our whole careers, and we still do a little of it. But we're out trying to promote the work that they're doing now. So
my perception when I first heard all the attacks on law enforcement and defunding was that would hurt recruiting. Does it hurt recruiting across the whole industry, or if one community is defunding, does that help our community that's not defunding? Because people will be like, well, I want to be in law enforcement, so I'm going to go to Yavapai County where they support their law enforcement.
we suffer the impacts
You suffer,
because what happens is, some of this is my personal opinion. Some of it, there's some data and studies to back it up. But basically this, law enforcement, public safety, entry level is primarily the younger generation getting into it. Mm-hmm. And they don't know a world in which the internet doesn't exist. And so the news and the things that they see, it's hard for them to understand that when you have the mayor of San Francisco who is defunding law enforcement there and people are coming out protesting the police, that's not happening here, but they feel like it is. Okay. They feel like it could be. Mm-hmm. And so you have to really show them the support, show them that, this is a good, honorable, noble profession. The community wants you here and you're needed. The community needs you. The country needs you. Without law enforcement, there is no country. Yeah. Not the way we know it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Yeah, we had employees that decided to completely change careers. They
just left.
It just left.
Yep.
It eats away a little bit at your soul.
They don't feel valued?
Well,
is that kind of what's...
I think we feel valued in this community. I don't think that that's ever been in question. Okay. But the rhetoric across the nation certainly had its toll. And I think that when you feel like you've been kind of born and made to do something, and that's in law enforcement. Nobody gets into this job to be rich, but every day you strap on some protective armor and some tools, and you go out and you put yourself literally in the face of evil to protect the community. Mm-hmm. When that starts to wane and you start to, and your family, it impacts your family. A lot of them had to get out of it because they're saving the mental toll that it takes on their spouse or their kids as well. And so it did have a big impact. It had a big impact on recruiting. Like I said, I think we're turning a corner now because people are tired of that rhetoric. Mm-hmm. They understand that if I move to a community and I feel safe, like you said, Brad, like you don't see it and you don't feel it, that's because the men and women out there that are putting themselves in front of that danger, to protect the citizens. But in those communities, like Sheriff Rhodes says, where you have Seattle or San Francisco or Chicago that had that feeling, and that they didn't feel that sense of value from their communities. They probably, in a lot of ways, I wonder if they felt that way at the time because you had all these men and women that were protecting you. Now you don't, and now they're regretting it because they feel what it's like when you don't have that barrier. Yeah. And so they're regretting that. And I think that the ones that have stayed and have made it a long career, you saw those veterans, but I think those men and women who had 2 or 3 years on, they really had to decide whether or not this was going to be something for them long term.
Very challenging time for the whole country, yes. Especially your agency.
Yes.
And recruiting. I mean, I know we've all faced challenges in recruiting good people. It seems like since COVID, it's just been really hard. It's like there's a portion of the workforce that's just disappeared. Right. And you guys have an extra layer on that, which is this negative media on your industry. How hard is it to recruit? And what are some opportunities for young men and women who are thinking about public safety and law enforcement with the Yavapai County Sheriffs?
Well, that's a great question. Recruiting was more difficult, and we've made a lot of strides. We've fomented a very positive relationship with the Yavapai County Board of Supervisors, and one of the things that was impacting recruiting was the compensation, pay and benefits. When we were seeing 8, 9, 10, 12, I don't know, % inflation, wages were not keeping up with that. And they were already depressed prior to that. COVID was a serious situation. And so over the last 3 years, the Board of Supervisors has gotten on a compensation plan that we worked with them on, and it's been very good. And so that has helped. Okay. We got hiring and retention bonuses from the Arizona legislature. All the sheriffs in the state, we worked with the legislature They appropriated about $54 million, and that went out in the form of hiring and retention bonuses to just, and it was that desperate at one point. We were just trying to keep people engaged. Of course, the price of housing, we talked about that, that went up, and that's a challenge. And that's something that, service industry, I don't call law enforcement service industry, but public safety, nurses, teachers, essential workers that any community needs to thrive, firefighters, they have to have a place to live, and they have to be able to afford it. And, that hadn't been the case here in Yavapai County, one of the hottest places in the nation. I was talking to the treasurer, Chip Davis, and he said they just did the tax lien sale of the back taxes that hadn't been paid. And he said 94% of the back taxes were sold at the auction to people all over this country. And so, and as you know, in your business, this is a hot spot for houses, for housing. And so we've got to find ways to still have people who can come and work and provide the services. That's sort of now the psychological piece of this has started to change a little bit, as Jeff mentioned, which has been good. Now, we were about 130 vacancies as an agency in July, and we're down to about 40 now.
That's great.
In 6 months. So we've hired about 110 people. We've made significant gains. We're going to be fully opening the new criminal justice facility here in a couple of weeks. So it's going a lot better, knock on wood, but the challenges are still there.
But there's still great careers in law enforcement for
people. Yeah, great careers. And I think you asked a question earlier. What do we continue to do to make life good here in Yavapai County?
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people don't realize as they live in Yavapai County, the work that we've done in the criminal justice community. The sheriff's office was a big leader in getting this started, but through our Yavapai Justice and Mental Health Coalition, the stakeholders that we have been able to bring to the table. In 2016, and I could go on and on about this, but in 2016, our recidivism here in Yavapai County was about 39%, according to the Department of Justice. We didn't really have good baseline data to really know how many people were reoffending and committing new crimes. But the Department of Justice had some stats on Arizona. It was about 39%. With the efforts that we've been able to do over the last 7-8 years at the sheriff's office through our connections piece that we have in our jails, we've lowered that recidivism level here in your community, my community, where I choose to raise my family, between 16 and 19%.
Wow.
Now, I would challenge you to go to any other community in the U.S. and see if they have a recidivism rate that's equal or better than what we've been able to build here. And that's been a process. That's how the partners in this county, all of our criminal justice partners, whether it be the other law enforcement agencies, the county attorney's office, the public defender's office, the judges, the mental health partners like Spectrum and Polera and Southwest Behavioral, that's a collaborative effort. And Sheriff Rhodes and Sheriff Masher, his predecessor, started this in 2016. I was a jail commander, and I was able to build it up, but through going down to the legislation and getting appropriation and paying for these things, that's what we've been able to do. So people want to move here to Yavapai County, and Yavapai County continues to grow. And yes, it's a challenge to keep up with that growth in resources and response times, but they come here in large part because of the work that people are doing to keep the quality of life here in this county the way it is. And that's the model that has been the partners here with the sheriff, who's been the lead on that, with people like Sheila Polk and Dennis McGrain and John Napper, who is the public defender now, the presiding judge. It goes on and on. And those are the partnerships that we've enjoyed. That's how we've been able to get through this season, this difficult season.
Well, you bring up a great point. So in 8 years, you cut the recidivism in half from 39 to 16 to 18. Population grew So you have more challenges. You're facing more and more challenges, probably more arrests, and having to deal with more people going through, but you're able to cut that down. But what you really touched on that I want to make sure everybody caught is it's a team effort.
Absolutely.
You guys are in the field doing your part, but you got to have the county attorney, you got to have the medical side, the health side, all that has to be aligned and working together to make the system work. Because if you guys keep bringing them off the street and then they go before the judge and then they're out back on the street because that end of the system isn't working, then the system doesn't work. And that would be really frustrating for everybody.
That scenario, the revolving door we call it, actually sets young people up for failure. Yeah. Because, you know, if you're suffering from a mental illness or addiction as a young person, many times you don't even realize really what's happening to you. Your first diagnosis occurs after your first arrest. It's oftentimes a low-level offense. And so the criminal justice system is somewhat pliable. The options for you to pay your debt to society are many at that point. But if you don't, if there's not an effort to learn what the root cause of the behavior is that got you arrested in the first place, and then some type of strategy to help you address it and manage your life, then you're just going to recidivate, reoffend, fancy word for reoffending. And then after you've broken the law maybe 2, 3, 4, or 5 times, now the options become very limited, and you're going to be going to prison. And you're going to be, you know, all these things impacting your life. And so, and many people, you know, violent criminals do need to go to prison. Accountability with opportunity is what we're talking about here. The accountability is key. Nobody ever takes the opportunity without the accountability. Yeah. But you're really supporting young people and getting their life on track.
Yeah, great points. And it is so important to catch it early when people have more opportunities to help them. Because that's really where I think a lot of people misunderstand law enforcement is you're really trying to help.
Right.
You're trying to catch it early,
right.
Give them the proper help so they can live a good life and they can chase their dreams and not be in this cycle of repeating a crime, creating new crimes, and feel like, you know, I see it on TV sometimes when I watch the shows, but they feel like there's no other option for them.
Right.
This is kind of how they grew up, and they don't know anything different because we didn't catch them when we had that opportunity.
Well, and the greater part of law enforcement is deterrence. You know, if people believe that the laws will be enforced and that there's a consequence that is undesirable to them, they're more likely to follow the law.
And we as a community have to support you in the accountability aspect of that.
That's right.
They did break a law, and there's accountability that needs to be held there.
That's right.
So, well, you know, I'm excited because I think you guys are willing to take me on a ride, so we can kind of see the other side of your business. That's when you're out in the field a little bit. So you guys want to hop in the.
Absolutely.
What do we got today?
We got a Tahoe out here.
Hop in the Tahoe.
We'll jump in it and we'll go spin around for a little bit and see what's going on.
Okay, I appreciate it. So we're gonna go take a ride. So stay tuned, and we'll be in the Tahoe very shortly. So let's talk about all the different agencies and how you guys collaborate. You got the highway patrol, you've got the police force in each community, and you have the sheriff. How do you guys all collaborate to, I guess, fulfill the public safety mission?
Well, Yavapai is one of these sort of unique areas where you got, I believe, 9 municipalities, 2 tribal agencies. You've got Arizona DPS, you've got the sheriff's office, and you got a number of small agencies. The sheriff's office is the largest agency, but nothing's like really big compared to, you know, everything else. And so it makes a lot of sense for us to collaborate and share resources. There's only one taxpayer. And so you're looking, each agency can't have all their own stuff, especially when they're high cost, low frequency use. So like one of the examples is that we have a shared academy, and it's a partnership with Yavapai College, Northern Arizona Regional Training Academy.
Okay.
And the college gives us the space and the support. The sheriff or the law enforcement agencies provide the trainers, and we all use it. And we open it up to, other agencies outside the county, but we prioritize our own recruits. Mm-hmm. And that has been working for 20-something years. The majority of the police officers working in Yavapai County were trained right here at the community college.
Nice.
And which is cool. And then we've got the narcotics task force, it's primarily sheriff's office, but the other agencies participate in it too. And we share resources there because the drugs, the drugs don't know any boundaries. People go whatever jurisdiction, and so you want to be able to just go wherever you need to go to chase down drug dealers, get them in custody. So that's a shared resource. One of the things we're looking at right now, very seriously, is regional dispatch, 911 dispatch.
Okay.
And because at this moment, you have 5 different places in the county where 911 calls ring into. But when you call 911, your call may not always, and oftentimes it doesn't ring exactly where into the center that it's supposed to ring into, because everybody's on cell phones, and as great as technology is, it has its limitations, and the location technology is not always right.
Okay.
So you may be calling 911 from here, and it should ring to, because this is the county, here we're at Diamond Valley, it should ring to our 911 center at Yavapai County, but it doesn't. It rings to Prescott's. And then Prescott's got to figure out where you are, and then they've got to hand you off to someone else. Well, that happens, and then maybe, then it's a medical call, and then maybe it's outside the fire district, and now they got to hand you off to an ambulance. And all these centers, all these different places, hand something off to DPS. People having a major emergency could end up, getting passed off 4 or 5 times before they talk to the agency that's responsible to help them. And that's horribly inefficient.
Yeah, a lot of time.
Yeah, a lot of time. And so we
that goes back to what you were saying earlier. Your response time is one of your big challenges, and it starts right there.
It is, and it matters. So you talk about some of the most horrific critical incidents you could think of, and so you're talking about shaving, minutes off of response times just by getting efficient 911 service. It's in that worst day, you could really be saving a lot of lives.
Yeah.
You get arrested, officer brings you through this secured area, come through this door, we walk in here. First thing, the most important thing is this. We have it in English and in Spanish, but this basically just says, hey, if you have any drugs on you, now is the time to tell us. But if you walk through this door with it, it's a class 2 felony and you'll go to prison.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So why is it class 2 in there?
Prison contraband. Because, fentanyl and drugs and all these things make this place incredibly unsafe. And so we take safety and security very, very seriously. So we say, hey, here's your chance. Give it up now or risk going to prison. Wow. And if they don't think we're going to find it, next is the body scan. So we're going to be looking for any hidden contraband. A scan image. Of course, you can see this gentleman looks like he had maybe a little surgery here in the hip. We have diagnosed cancer a few times here, unfortunately. These will show a mass, and we have seen those before. So you come over here. This is your live scan fingerprint machine, which basically, you're arrested, you come in, technology again. This used to all be ink. Now this goes immediately to Arizona DPS.
Okay.
And then they can verify your identity that way. And then we've got the iris scan here, which is the other way we use to verify your identity. So, and this is really important when you're bringing people in, because you could have, and we have had people that have stolen the identity of someone else. Mm-hmm. And this reveals who they really are, at least that they're not the person that they're claiming to be.
Yeah.
So this is the booking area, and if somebody's not behaving well, they're not, they got a bad attitude, we may put them in a holding cell. If they've got a good attitude and they're behaving, we've got a nice chair right here.
Okay.
And you can just wait out here kind of passively and whatnot. We want this place to always look like this, smell like this, calm, secure, safe. Come on in. Come on in. This is general population minimum. Short-term stay, they got a table here, they got their bathroom, they got their showers, bunk beds. They can be up doing whatever they want in here, pretty much 24 hours a day and whatnot, as long as they're behaving and getting along with everybody.
So there's shoes, there's slippers.
Yeah.
They actually polish the floor. This is how our inmates visit with their families now, instead of the face-to-face that you see on TV and what they're used to.
When you, particularly for people who have children at home that are moms or dads, and they're in jail, their recidivism rates, reoffense rates, they just drop off when they get to see their kids. And so, when you get to see a birthday party, and somebody's walking around with a cell phone, or you get to see a soccer game or whatever it is, that actually has a major impact on whether they're going to, use drugs again or break the law again or do whatever it is. And so this is a very effective tool for that.
I can see that. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Gives them hope to
Yeah.
encouragement to stay well behaved, to get out.
Yep. Hey guys.
Hi.
How you doing? Showing you guys out. This is Brad Fain.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
These are our release coordinators.
Anyone who comes with inside the facility, see if we can help out in any way with substance abuse, mental health, housing, transportation.
Try to give them their best start.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So these are, another one of the things that we're doing to try to increase public safety. That's an increase in quality of life. It's better outcomes for the community, better outcomes for the individual, their families, their kids, and then you try to filter out the people that really need to be in jail and the people that, maybe would benefit from some of the things and help them not come back. That's what it's all about. We're going to show you the reentry center right next door. That's where we're heading now.
Okay.
This is where your community service providers and your treatment providers can come and receive people that are coming out of the facility. Polera is able to use this for other people in the community that they need inpatient psych beds. So by building this, we were able to increase the number of inpatient psych beds in the community.
Wow, this is a great facility.
Yeah, it was a lot of thought, a lot of years, a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm amazed at all the thought that's gone into this and the technology you guys have and you're deploying in here. And I love the partnership, with the community on this facility.
Well, Sheriff, I appreciate the tour. Appreciate your day. Thank you so much. It's been fascinating.
Thank you for all the work you're doing and helping us get the word out about the good work that's being done here. We appreciate it.
Well, it's an amazing facility and it is truly an asset to our community. So
thank you for that. Thank you.
That's been
We've
great.
got great people that are doing an amazing job.
Thanks, appreciate it.
You bet.